In this video, I'm going to show you 7 tips to help you instantly write lyrics like the pros. Let's check it out. What's up, Austin here from Make Pop Music. Today, I want to cover how to actually write lyrics for a pop song. I will go ahead and preface this entire video by saying that writing lyrics is such a personal experience. Everybody has different stories they want to tell. Everybody likes to write their lyrics in their own specific voice. So just take these tips today as a guideline to kind of help you break through writer's block and help you just get those creative juices flowing. These are tips that I've used throughout my 8-year career writing hundreds, if not thousands of songs, and they're tips that I hear other professionals and other peers talk about all the time. So we're going to dive in and we're going to check all of that out. But before we do, if you like this video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We have videos every single Friday, so you don't want to miss out on those. And then other than that, if you really like this video and you want to support the channel, you can head over to makepopmusic.com after the video. We have sample packs, preset packs, MIDI packs. We have a start to finish production course where we do cover writing lyrics. So go check that out after the video. Let's go ahead and dive in so we can talk about how to actually write lyrics for a pop song. So the first idea that I want to talk about is just keeping ideas and song starters on deck. And what I mean by that is I find it really helpful whenever I am stuck in a rut to just start kind of creating notes on my phone or kind of, carry something like a little journal with me just so I can write down observations, emotions, experiences. Sometimes I'll have cool little one-liners that come to my mind. And when you create something like a note on your phone or you create a journal, what that does is whenever you get into the studio, you have infinite opportunity to kind of pull from those experiences rather than you trying to just recall emotions on the spot. So I find it really helpful. This is a tip that I picked up in college for creative writing, and it's something that I've carried through with being a songwriter. So I really implore you to, keep something like a notebook or a note in your phone, and for at least a couple weeks, try to write down at least one thing a day. It could be a one-liner, it could be a thought, it could be an experience, it could be something that you witness, and then try your best to turn that into a song. You'd be really surprised how quickly you can turn one single sentence from a notes app into an entire 3.5-minute song. Other than that, I think it just really helps to kind of be fully present in the moment. So if you're having trouble with writer's block and kind of, pulling from inspiration, try to be more present when you're out doing things or listening to people tell their stories or, experiencing things, because in all of our lives, we get so busy, it's kind of go. And it can be really easy to kind of just be living through situations, but not really experiencing them. And when you're not experiencing them, it's hard to recall that later when you're doing something like writing a song. And again, if you're having a ton of writer's block, my biggest thing is take a week or two off, go live your life, go make new experiences, write those down in a journal or in a notes app, and then you can bring those back into the studio. The last little sub point of this first topic that I want to talk about is just kind of feeling free to take inspiration from any aspect of your life. It doesn't have to be something that you've experienced. It could be something that you've heard a friend experience, you've seen on a TV show, read in a book, seen in a movie, stories that you've heard on like a podcast. I think if you can get comfortable putting yourself in other people's shoes and writing in other people's voices, you have infinitely more situations and topics and ideas to kind of write about. That's going to be my first tip. Make sure that you keep some kind of log or journal or note on your phone of just little ideas as they happen every day. And then when you get into the studio, you can instantly pull from those. The second thing that I want to talk about is thinking about what kind of lyrics you actually want to write. There are tons of different kind of lyricists out there. You've got people who are really good with storytelling. So I think about like kind of folk singer-songwriters. I think of people like John Lennon. I think of people like even newer, somebody like Taylor Swift, who really does a good job at kind of writing a song more like a poem or a short story where there's lots of imagery, they're using metaphors, they're using similes, they're using tons of like literary language. And that can be really cool if you like to write your songs as a storyteller. I also know a lot of other people who kind of write as just personal emotional observations. So things aren't really talked about in terms of like using a metaphor. They're just way more direct and blunt, and it's something that they're dealing with. I think of somebody like Black Bear. All of his lyrics are pretty cut and dry. It's really easy to understand what he's trying to say. He's not using a bunch of metaphors and stories and symbolism and painting all of these really specific situations. You can just understand what the song is trying to say. So I think when you go into a song, trying to narrow down your focus of, am I telling a story? Do I want this to be big and grand? Do I want my listener to kind of see the picture that I'm trying to paint? Or do I want to be more short, more concise, more personal? And do I want them to really feel and experience what I'm trying to say? They're totally different things when you're writing a song. So just think about that when you actually get into the studio, or just whenever you're in a writing session in general. When you're working on lyrics, think about how you want to actually portray those lyrics. Another thing that I want to talk about in the second point of what kind of lyrics do you want to use is what kind of person are you going to use? Are you using first person, second person, third person? Are you using things like I? Are you using things like you, he, she, they, we? whatever it is, they all have totally different meanings. So if you don't know what first, second, and third person are, first person refers to I, me, something like that, we. So, if I was saying in a song, I did this, I did that, we did that, that's all first person. Second person is going to be if I refer to you or you all. So if you and I or me and you do something, that's first and second person. Third person is going to be he, she, or they. So if it was something like she did this, they did that, he did this, I did that, and he said this, that's third person. So I have a couple examples that I went ahead and pulled up. So we have an example of first and second person, which is using you and I, and we're using Harry Styles as it was. So holding me back. So me is going to be first person. Gravity's holding me back. I, first person, want you, that second person, to hold up the palm of your hand. Why don't we leave it at that? So when you use first and second person, it really feels conversational between the subjects of that actual story. So you and I feels like the two people are kind of conversing within that song. If you use something like first and third person, like Harry Styles does in the song She, this feels much more like you're telling a story about somebody else to a completely different person. So she lives in a daydream with me. So you still have, Harry Styles or whoever the narrator is as a subject, but he's referring to she. He's not referring to a person in conversation. This kind of paints that storytelling picture of, folk singers and stuff like that will use third person pronouns a lot more just because they're trying to paint this more like a short story or like a poem. So think about if you want it to be conversational with first and second person, if you want it to be storytelling with first and third person, if you want it to be complete storytelling where everything is in third person and you're not the subject at all. Those are really, really important because they paint completely different pictures for the listener. Let's move on to the third tip that I have, and that is writing your lyrics to an existing melody. I know that this sounds really, really complicated, but I promise you it is so much easier to write your lyrics once you actually have a melody. So what I really, really recommend, and if you don't believe me, this is Max Martin's formula as well. Let me pull up this little article. I will link it in the actual video below. But me and Max Martin can both agree that when you have a song, what you should do is kind of flesh out the chords, flesh out the general arrangement, and then just kind of hum a melody. And once you have that melody, you can start putting lyrics to that pretty easily. You'll find that melodies contain a lot of emotion within themselves, right? So like if I listen to a song in a foreign language, let's say I listen to something in Spanish or Korean or French, I can just tell by the way that that melody sounds if that song is happy or sad or, truthful, or if it's mysterious. Melody carries so many emotions, and especially when you're working with pop and you're trying to reach an international audience, that melody will be more important generally than the lyrics. So this is kind of Max Martin's formula. I can show you on the article here. If you want to see us break down Max Martin's kind of melodic formula in general, we can do that in a whole separate video. But he says first he writes a melody, lyrics will come later. They serve the melody. So I see so many people, especially like on our Facebook group and stuff like that, will be like, oh, I have these lyrics. How do I flesh this out as a song? If you only have lyrics, if you don't have any musical bed, if you don't have any melody, they're not lyrics. They're really just a poem. So if you really want them to be lyrics, I highly suggest trying to sing along to a melody, because to me, it takes away a lot of that guesswork. And then honestly, anytime that I've ever pre-written lyrics and then tried to put them on top of a melody, I end up having to change half of them anyway because they have to fit the syllabic structure. They have to fit the kind of rhyme scheme that we're going to be using, which we'll talk about in a second. But just try to make sure that you get into the habit of actually writing to chords and writing to melodies and not just kind of writing down stories in your journal unless you're trying to be a poet. It's hard to be a songwriter if you can't think of the melodies as well. So keep that in mind. Look into Max Martin's kind of melodic math formula. It's really, really interesting. Super tried and true. Pretty much everybody that I know uses it. The fourth tip would be specific and personal, but be general and palatable at the same time. So I think of artists that are really good at telling their own stories, but in a very general way where people can kind of relate to that overarching emotion. So we talked about Taylor Swift a little bit earlier. We can use her again. She's really, really good at taking really specific personal things to her and her love life or her personal life and having those really specific moments. So, this is Taylor Swift. This is a Taylor Swift song. These are Taylor Swift lyrics. But anybody between the ages of 12 and 60 will still be able to relate to the kind of overarching theme of love and loss and, trial and tribulation. It's just really important to have something that people can all kind of relate with without it just being this kind of generic, mishmash of kind of Mad Lib words that anybody would relate to love or to fear or to anxiety. It's really important to have personal experiences because that can really add your own personal tone and your own character to your lyrics. So I do have an example in this, and this kind of draws back to her being a storyteller and using things like metaphors, but she has a song called Mirror Ball, and the lyrics are, I want you to know I'm a mirror ball. I'll show you every version of yourself tonight. I'll get you out on the floor, shimmering beautiful, and when I break, it's in a million pieces. That is such a specific and different way to talk about one person will reflect somebody that they love, to just try to paint themselves as the ideal partner for somebody. So you could easily say, you know, I would change myself in every way to make you happy, or I could change me for the better for you. But she uses this metaphor of a mirror ball, and it just creates this really personal, kind of different experience that still feels really, really relatable. Anybody can understand what she's trying to say with that metaphor of a mirror ball, but it's not so cut and dry that it's a little bit boring to listen to. Let's talk about tip number 5. This is probably going to be the biggest one in the entire video, and that is talking about rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme matters sometimes. So what is rhyme scheme? That's basically the word that a certain phrase or line ends in, rhymes with the next one or doesn't rhyme with the next one. So let me kind of show you what I mean. So we can use Flowers by Miley Cyrus. We're going to use different letters for how the rhyme changes. So I can buy myself flowers. That's the ending word. So that's rhyme A. Write my name in the sand. So that's line B. It does not rhyme with flowers, so we're going to give that a new letter. So A, B. Talk to myself for hours. That rhymes with flowers, so that's going to be rhyme number A, or letter A. And then say things you don't understand. So understand is rhyming with sand. That's B. And then you see I can take myself dancing. That's breaking the rhyme. So we have C, and I can hold my own hand. We're back to B with sand and understand. Yeah, I can love me better than you can. B with hand, sand, and understand. So we have A, B, C, B, B. So let me talk a little bit about different rhyme schemes and some songs that you would hear them in. So we have A, B, A. So that's when the first and the second line rhyme, the third line breaks away from that rhyme, and then the fourth line goes back to that line. So think about something like Closer by Halsey and the Chainsmokers. So baby, pull me closer in the backseat of your Rover that you know I can't afford. That's breaking that rhyme. So we have A, B. Baby, pull me closer in the backseat of your Rover that you know I can't afford. Bite that tattoo on your shoulder. We're going back to that first rhyme. And this just kind of feels really consistent. It has that different rhyme that's coming third just to break it up and make it move a little bit. This is a really good rhyme scheme for having something that melodically feels really consistent and kind of just has a parallel structure, but it's not just the same thing repeated over and over and over. Then we have A, B. This is super sing-songy. I think of this almost like a Dr. Seuss kind of rhyme. So you're rhyming every other line. So you have something like Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. Ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. That's rhyme A. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch. That's rhyme B. I said, ooh, I'm drowning in the night. We're back to A. And then, oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. We're back to B. So it's kind of A, B. You're just rhyming alternate. And that can be really, really good for just kind of having that kind of natural sing-songy, chorus-esque, Dr. Seuss-esque poetic rhyme scheme. I find this really, really, really common in like pop choruses. Then you can go on to AABB, which is where you're rhyming the first two lines and then the last two lines. This one's also super common in pop. We have a little example down here, Kill Bill. You was out of reach. You was at the farmer's market with your perfect peach. Now I'm in amazement, playing on my patience. Now you got me face down. Now I'm singing over a beat. So we're going AABB and then back to A. So this is just really cool for kind of creating symmetry because you have the first two lines and then the second two lines. It just kind of creates two separate thoughts. Then you have AAAB. This kind of builds intensity because you are keeping that rhyme and then you kind of break it at the end, which can really just add something like a little bit of tension. It almost feels like when you don't resolve a chord at the beginning or at the end of a chord progression. So think of something like Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do. Although my heart is falling too. So that's 3 rhymes in a row. It's getting a little repetitive. So let's break it. I'm in love with your body. Using rhyme scheme to kind of add some kind of rhythm or add some kind of like bounce or add some kind of symmetry is really, really important for how people perceive your song. So think about how you're rhyming your end rhymes. If you find that it feels a little bit corny and a little bit basic, maybe you're an ABAB, maybe swap one of those rhymes so it doesn't feel so, boom, 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 boom. Play with rhyme scheme. It can be a really, really cool tool to add in tons of different vibes that you might not have just in your kind of go-to melody or go-to structure. The 6th tip that I want to talk about is using things like repetition. So lots of pop writers, Benny Blanco, Max Martin, Shellback, have all said that they like adding repetition to draw emphasis on certain words, and it can almost act as a hook because when things repeat, it kind of adds this weird percussive element where it feels so different than all of the surrounding lyrics. This can be a really, really good time to kind of get a listener inclined to kind of repeating or singing along. And if there is a word that's really, really important, like think of a chorus that repeats, it can just really draw emphasis on that certain word. So I have the song Unholy by Sam Smith and Compressor. And in that song, we have a lucky, lucky girl. She got married to a boy like you. She'd kick you if she ever knew about all the things you tell me that you do. So we have things like she ever, a lucky, lucky. It just creates this like really nice movement. And you don't have to always fill every syllable with a line with a new word. So if you find that you're getting stuck with, I've got 10 syllables that I need to fill, but I can only find 8 that feel really significant to what I'm trying to say, screw it, repeat one of the words. Who cares? It doesn't have to be that serious. And if you use repetition, it can be a really cool way to just add that movement. Because when I think of this song, I think of Sam Smith and the first line that they sing, a lucky, lucky girl, and boom, that's an instant hook. For some reason, it just has a nice bounce. If you had a completely different 2-syllable word instead of lucky, I don't think it would have the same kind of impact that this does. And tip number 7, the last thing that I want to talk about is just don't overthink your lyrics. Every time I see somebody post lyrics in our Facebook group or I have friends show me, it seems like they just thought about them way too hard. I was watching a Taylor Swift documentary this weekend with my wife and her friend who was in town because we're going to the show in Atlanta in a few weeks. And it's so funny because she is pretty renowned for how she writes her lyrics. But in that video, you can see that she's really just coming up with them on the spot. And that's what any good songwriter is going to do. Yeah, we've all got notebooks. We've all got notes in our phone where we kind of keep ideas and songs and lyrics and one-liners. But you need to just get into the session. You need to be singing over that melody and you need to just feel the vibe. Do not overthink it. Lyrics are important to a song. They are important to what you're trying to say, but they're not more important than the melody. They're not more important than the chord progression. They're not more important than how you sing the lyrics. So don't overthink it. Tons of pop songs are going to have silly, kind of incorrect, kind of nonsensical lyrics. Just roll with it. As long as you can say what you're trying to say and people can understand that, it's not the end of the world. It really does not matter all that much. I do have a quick example for this one. I'm going to use the song Break Free by Ariana Grande and Zedd. I love them both, but this is just a perfect example of a stupid kind of shitty pop lyric that nobody really caught. They just wrote it, went with it, and it became one of the biggest songs in the world when it came out. I Only Want to Die Alive. Number 1, that doesn't really make sense. Never by the Hands of a Broken Heart. I Don't Want to Hear You Lie Tonight. Now That I've Become Who I Really Are. So this is just completely incorrect. Now That I've Become Who I Really Are. I Only Want to Die Alive doesn't really make sense. None of these lines like really tie into each other. It's just the perfect example of how the melody is super fire. Everybody knows the words. You sing along without even really thinking about what the words are. Stop overthinking your lyrics to the point where you just get complete writer's block. Say something, say what you want to say it as fast as you can, get it out there. And then if you want to revise it later, you always can. You can always go back and kind of see what you want to do, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world. So that's my 7 tips on how to write better pop lyrics. These are things that I use every single day when I'm writing. You start to get into the habit. You'll start to find your own voice. You'll start to find your own workflow. Don't overthink things. Use some of these tools to kind of give yourself some boundaries to stick between. And then other than that, you'll just naturally come to it. But that's going to do it for this video. If you like this, again, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what videos you want to see down in the comments below because we do take your suggestions. And if you really like this video and if you want to support our channel, you can head over to makepopmusic.com. We have sample packs, preset packs, MIDI packs, courses. We have tons of free content over there as well if you just want to go download that. So head over to makepopmusic.com. We really appreciate the love and support. That's going to do it for this video. Hopefully this helped you write some better lyrics. Hopefully this helped kind of kick that writer's block. But we will see you next week with much more content. And until then, much love. Peace.